Namaste and good morning, everyone. We'll start our session with the prayers. We'll chant all together. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Now we'll chant Mahamrityunjay mantra 3 times. For those who are suffering because of current pandemic environment and other reasons. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukam Iva Bandhana Mrityor Mukshiyamamrutat. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukam Iva Bandhana Mrityor Mukshiyamamrutat. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukam Iva Bandhana Mrityor Mukshiyamamrutat. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Welcome everyone to this course we are having, that is in-depth study of the scripture. We have chosen Bhagavad-Gita 2nd chapter. So I just want to give you an overview today, and if time permits we'll get to the actual verse. Otherwise we'll start the verse from the next session. So first I want to tell you what this course is about and how did we start this course. So in the month of March and April and part of May, I conducted a Sanskrit course for beginners, online course. And the purpose of that studying Sanskrit was to be able to study scriptures. So we did cover a few verses from scripture in that course. But then I have started now the Sanskrit level 2 course. And the idea was that instead of just taking one-off verses from here and there, if we could have a systematic study of a scripture. And when I say systematic means because the Bhagavad-Gita is written in Sanskrit, to understand the Sanskrit grammatical structure, to arrive at the meaning of the word and therefore the sentence. So with that objective in mind, we have started this course, systematic and in-depth study of a scripture. It is also a part of the level 2 Sanskrit course, but because it is a study of Bhagavad-Gita, which would be of interest to many other people, those who do not want to learn Sanskrit in detail, that's why it is also offered as a general course. We will have 16 classes as a part of this course. We may not be able to cover the whole 2nd chapter because we would be going a little bit deeper into the understanding of the words and their grammatical structure. And there would be total, so in 16 classes, we'll cover whatever is possible. Our objective is not necessarily to somehow complete the second chapter, but to be able to understand each and every verse in depth. Then there is a concept called Anubandha Chatushtaya, 4 important aspects. So whenever there is a new book or a new course, traditionally it is stated that what are those 4 important aspects. One is Adhikari, who should attend the course, or it is actually generally used for a book traditionally because that's how the work was being published. We are doing right now an online course. So Adhikari is who should attend. So here the one who has an interest in Sanskrit and scripture, learning the scripture in depth, that person is Adhikari. So all of you who are interested in learning Bhagavad-Gita in detail, not just the translation, but to be able to understand that grammatical structure of the words to arrive at the meaning, that is the Adhikari. Then Vishaya, subject matter. What is the subject matter? So we will go through each and every Gita verse in second chapter, and then for every verse we'll go to every word and see that how is that word derived using the Sanskrit grammar, and therefore arriving at this meaning. So that is the subject matter. Then the third aspect is prayojanam. What is usefulness of studying this? So one thing, if you study this course, you would clearly perceive a difference in the depth of your understanding using this approach versus if you were to simply study the English translation of a verse. In addition, when you read the commentaries or you hear the teachings from other masters on Bhagavad-Gita, you would be able to comprehend that, appreciate that aspect much better, including the metaphorical aspects. So one example is Sri Guruji. He has given a very long series of Bhagavad-Gita talks. Those will be published shortly, and after studying this way, you would much better enjoy and understand those talks by Sri Guruji on Bhagavad-Gita. Sambandha, how are all these connected? So this is the fourth aspect. So one connection is very clear between the subject matter and the language. Bhagavad-Gita is written in Sanskritam, and if we truly want to understand what does it mean, it clearly makes sense that if we can analyze the words using the Sanskrit grammar, that will give us a clearer understanding. Mode of study. So naturally, we are going to have this online course. For every, I'll take verse by verse, and for every verse, I'll take every single word and then show you that how does it fit both from Sanskrit perspective as well as in the schema of the sentence, and to arrive at the meaning. We will also discuss a little bit of the philosophical aspect, but the purpose is to be able to understand what exactly the original verse in Sanskrit is saying. To facilitate this study, we have created a repository, and the link for repository is sent to all of you, and I'll show you as a part of this. Let me show you right now. So if you go here and if you click on the link which has been sent to you in the course, you will see these folders. So SANS-1, that is for the beginners course, Sanskrit beginners course. And if any of you who are interested, you can access the material related to that course. Then SANS-02, that is the current level 2 course we are conducting, that is an ongoing course. And scripture, this is the one for our purpose for this course. So one thing, this is the repository. And here if you look at, one thing is I have put a file here, Bhagavad-Gita 2nd chapter. And this file gives all the verses of 2nd chapter, three things: original verse in both Devanagari and Roman script, the split words, for every single verse their words are split, and the English translation. So you can download this, would be a very helpful resource for this course. We will also be posting the class videos. So all these class videos, they will be posted for those who might not be able to attend the live course, as well as for those who want to view it again to understand it better. We would be having the class videos posted here, as well as the verse analysis files. So any analysis we do in the class, those files will be posted here. In addition, there is other study material which I have taken from the Sanskrit for Beginners course, and you can look at these files and they would be helpful to you. And I will explain a little bit more about this. So Sanskrit learning resources, which I just showed you on the repository. So there are, for those who might be interested, who are not already a part of the Sanskrit course, who might be interested to learn a little bit Sanskrit, we have the full video classes and documents related to Sanskrit course for beginners. So we are studying Bhagavad-Gita. Let us see what is Bhagavad-Gita. So most of you might already be knowing, most of you might already be exposed to a certain extent what is Bhagavad-Gita. It's the foremost scripture of Hindus in India, as well as for many people in the world who adore this scripture. The teachings here are presented in the form of question and answers between a guru and disciple. Guru is here Lord Krishna and disciple is Arjuna. How big is Bhagavad Gita and how it is set? What is the setting in which this scripture is delivered? Bhagavad Gita is about 700 verses. If you chant it, it's divided into 18 chapters. If you chant it constantly, it takes about 2.5 hours to comfortably chant Bhagavad Gita. I have seen people who can chant very fast, yet very accurate, and they can finish in 45 minutes also. But generally, I have seen if I chant comfortably, it takes about 2.5 hours. Bhagavad Gita is set in the middle of Mahabharata. Mahabharata is one of the great epics from India. To my knowledge, this is the largest ever poem written ever in any language. Just to give you an idea that how big is this poem, the whole thing is written in the poetry form. This has 100,000 verses, 100,000 verses. And just to give you a little bit more visual idea, this is the translation, just the translation, not the original. Translation of Mahabharatam, and you can see the size of the book. And this is written in pretty small print as well as pretty dense. And there are 4 such volumes. This is just one. There are 4 such volumes, just the English translation. It does not have original verses. So just the English translation of Mahabharata, it is such a huge poem. So literally Mahabharata means the story of the clan of Bharata. There was a great king called Bharata, and in his clan, 2 sets of cousins called Pandavas and Kauravas, they happened, and this story is of this clan of Bharata. That's why the great story, that's why the name Mahabharata. Many people have understand Mahabharata means war. War is one of the very important themes in the book, but literally the meaning of Mahabharata means the great story of this clan of Bharata. Out of which, in this story though, the war is presented as one of the very central themes, the war between the cousins. Bhagavad-Gita is set when this battle, the great battle between these 2 armies, is about to take place. The most prominent general and warrior on Pandava's side, Arjuna, he wanted to see the preparations of the battlefield. And he had his friend as well as his guru and the Lord Krishna as his charioteer. And when he sees, because they are cousins going to war, when he sees on both sides that there are relatives, Arjuna is overcome by compassion and pity. And he says, Krishna, I can't fight this battle. I don't see any point in fighting this battle. Even if we win, it is kind of a loss, because for the very people whom we care, we have to kill them. Who are our relatives, we have to kill them in order to win. So I do not see a good way out of it. And when he goes into deep depression, having these kind of thoughts, and when he realizes that he is not able to overcome his depression by himself, and this is a problem, and this is a problem which is not just situational problem, but it's a problem somewhere deep within, that he doesn't understand some things very clearly. The clarity is missing. Then he surrenders to Lord Krishna and says, look, I surrender to you. You are my guru. Please teach me so that I am able to go across this sorrow. And that's how the teachings start. So a story of Mahabharata which takes you up to Gita, it's a beautiful story. It's a long story, but Guruji has written this book. Many of you might be knowing about it. This Bhagavad-Gita, the entrance to the temple of Gita. And those of you are interested, you can read this book. It's a beautiful book. It tells the story in fairly, so I'll show you here also on the Kriya.org website. Mahabharata, the entrance to the temple of the Gita. It's a beautiful book to tell the story of the Mahabharata from the very beginning, and also it covers the spiritual aspects. So it tells you like the simple story as well as its spiritual significance. So if you are interested to know how Gita is set in Mahabharata, this is a beautiful book. Many people have this question: is it a historical document? Did it really take place? Did Mahabharata war take place? Did the teaching of Gita take place in the setting it is described in the book? The way I answer this question is two things. One, tradition of India believes it's a historical thing. We call it itihasa, which literally means that's how it was. That's the history. Now, when you go by the archaeological evidence and other things, maybe the evidence is not found. But that's how the tradition believes. Second thing is this. About Bhagavad-Gita, it doesn't matter whether it's a historical document or not. We have the teachings at present. When you have a book, somebody must be the author. We consider that author as Lord Krishna. As simple as that. Why this is important? Is it important because it's a historical document? No, that's not the reason why it's important. There are tons of historical documents available in the whole world. They are not important. They are not all important. It is important because it describes the truth at present. If you read Bhagavad Gita and you only are reading history, then it has a very, very limited value. But if it is telling you a truth of your life and that how can you be free from sorrow, that is what is the important part. And that is what makes Gita important. So for us, that's what we'll see when we study second chapter. We see that some of the teachings which are given to Arjuna, we believe it's about 5,000 years ago. It's very difficult to define a date because in India, the people did not keep a very good historical records. But whatever the age may be of this document, the important part is that it depicts the truth in the present moment. That is the important part. Because of this importance of Bhagavad Gita, there have been thousands and thousands of commentaries in all the languages. Traditionally, the commentaries were written in Sanskrit in India, and we have quite a good number of those commentaries which are in Sanskrit, some of them written thousands of years ago. The oldest one, which is available in totality, is commentary by Adi Shankaracharya. And then many more commentaries have been written. In the modern times, a lot of commentaries have been written in Hindi, English, and many other languages. In Gita Press, which is one of the important publication house for propagating the teachings of Bhagavad Gita, they have more than 1,400 Bhagavad Gita commentaries in their collection. Then why are we taking second chapter? Why not start with the first chapter? So for two reasons, I wanted to take second chapter. One, second chapter is the summary, consider the summary of whole Bhagavad Gita. So if you understand second chapter thoroughly, you have a very good idea of the teachings of Bhagavad Gita whole. Bhagavad Gita second chapter is considered the summary. Second reason is that second chapter is the one where Arjuna surrenders to Lord Krishna and Lord Krishna starts formal teachings on how to overcome this sorrow which Arjuna is facing, how to overcome this depression. And many masters in the past, they have written their commentaries from second chapter where the Lord Krishna's teaching starts in the verse 11. Different ways to study. So there are, of course, many different ways to study Bhagavad Gita. Different emphasis could be there. you could read the translation, and for many people it is fine. Some people do not study directly, they just study from the mouth of the Guru preceptor, and that is fine. You follow the, sometimes people like just the summary, that just in one, like Sri Ramakrishna used to say, the whole essence of Gita is in one word. If you reverse the word, tagi, it becomes tagi, means renunciation. So you renounce, and that is the essence. Many other masters have said that the surrender to the Lord is the essence of Bhagavad-Gita. So there are different ways. How deep do you want to go? And all of them are valid depending upon the people. We would be going a traditional route, where if you go to the traditional commentaries of Gita, you will find that those commentaries will explain Sanskrit words, and those which are difficult, they will describe the whole grammatical analysis of those Sanskrit words. So because Bhagavad Gita is in Sanskrit, and Sanskrit we would be studying accordingly, it's important for us to, I'll give you a little bit of an overview of Sanskrit as a language. Also, my idea is that if any of you find it interesting enough, maybe you may be motivated to learn Sanskrit, and we have the material available in the repository as I showed you. So normally Sanskrit is considered a divine language. And the question comes, really? What is divine? Is it a divine language? What does it mean it's a divine language? It's a language. Whether it's a divine language or not, it may be a matter of belief. But it is a uniquely special language. And that is a matter of understanding. And that's what I want to present to you. It's a very scientific language. And I'll present you some amazing facts about Sanskrit. What does it mean that I say scientific language? So one very interesting fact about Sanskrit is that it's a free word order language. That means words can be arranged in any order in a sentence, and meaning does not change. In English, if I say a simple sentence, Mike goes to school. Mike goes to the school, and if I change the word order, the sentence would become either meaningless or its meaning will completely change. Not so in Sanskrit. It seems like a magic, but of course there is a very solid logic behind it. It's not a magic. And if you want to understand more, I'll just give you an example. What do I mean by that? That it's a free word order language. So look at a statement. It's a simple statement. In English, if I write, Orita Gina, daughter of Erica from Newark, goes by train to a big school in New York City to study economics. I took word by word and put this Sanskrit sentence. Rite Gina Erikayaha Putri Newark Nagarat Gachati Relayanena Vishalam Vidyalayam New York Nagare Arthashastradhyayanaya. And then I rearranged the words in an order which is more likely to be encountered while writing Sanskrit. So this is the order typically you will see in Sanskrit sentences. Both of these exactly mean the same thing. The beauty about this sentence is that if you put all the words in whichever order and the meaning doesn't change, it allows you to write this sentence in 3.6 million ways. So you can write this sentence in 3.6 million ways and the meaning will remain the same. There will be no confusion about the meaning. That's such an amazing thing. And you can imagine that how much flexibility will that give to poets. Again, as I said, it's not a magic. There is a proper logic behind it. And it's also not absolute. There are certain rules which allow freedom in word order, and in some other cases you cannot. But it's largely considered a free word order language. So think of a sentence that can be written in 3.6 million ways without changing the meaning, without causing any ambiguity in the meaning. Then some scientific research has taken place in Sanskrit, and they have found that it uses both halves of the brain. What it means is that our brain, many of you might be knowing, it consists of two halves, left half and right half, two hemispheres, they say. And left part controls the right part of the body, right part controls the left part of the body. The language typically is the domain of the right half of the brain. And analysis, logic, mathematics, those are the domain of the left brain. Sanskrit is an extremely analytical language, and at the same time, it's a very poetic language also. So they have found that learning Sanskrit activates both halves of the brain, and that's why it's a very balanced thing. It's a very balanced learning language. So there have been some scientific studies, and also they have found that people who used to learn traditionally by rote, for example, people go into the Gurukulam, into the school at a very young age, and they would memorize text after text. They found that in those cases, some beneficial pathways have been created in their brains. So there have been some studies of those kinds. The alphabet of Sanskrit language, it's a very scientifically designed alphabet. I have not seen any other alphabet coming even anywhere close. And what I mean by that is I'll give you just a little glimpse of that. So first of all, alphabet is simply written vowels separate, first vowels and then consonants. Unlike in English where vowels and consonants are mixed, in Sanskrit alphabet, they are written separately. So first all the vowels are enumerated and then all the consonants. Secondly, the consonants, they have been grouped, particularly these 5 consonants, this 5 by 5, 25 consonants. They have been grouped in a manner that place of pronunciation. So first row, ka, kha, ga, gha, ng, they are the ones which are pronounced from the throat. Then next row is pronounced from the lower palate, then upper palate, then teeth, and then lips. So this place of pronunciation and also the way one after another they come telling you that whether it's aspirated sound, unaspirated sound, soft sound, hard sound, nasal sound, semi-vowels, they all have been arranged so amazingly that, as I told you, I have not come across any alphabet, and there are many more criteria how this alphabet is arranged. One could study just the arrangement of alphabet, the different aspects of arrangements in quite good detail, and there are books for that. What it does is that even for a person who has no familiarity with Sanskrit alphabet, if you follow this scientific method of place of pronunciation and whether it's aspirated or soft or hard, you can learn how to pronounce a letter in Sanskrit alphabet. And that is the amazing part, that one can learn even if one has no previous exposure to it. In the repository I had shown, there was other study material. I had put some links. So for those who are interested to learn this alphabet, how to pronounce and how to write, you can go to a particular link here in learning Sanskrit letters pronunciation, and that shows you all the letters, and you can play the sound of the letter, and you can see how is it written in the Devanagari script and how it is written in the transliteration, the Roman transliteration. It's a perfectly phonetic language. The way it is written, the way it is spoken, no exceptions. English, of course, is not a phonetic language. You can have BUT, but PUT put. But there are certain languages which are phonetic. I was told in my previous class that Hungarian, Romanian, and some other languages, they are perfectly phonetic. The difference, the way Sanskrit is phonetic from other languages which are also phonetic, is that here every single syllable, every single letter is pronounced in the same way as if it were standalone versus if it's a part of the word. So I'll give you an example. The word akasha in Sanskrit. So akasha, even if you write separately just the single letters, you will still pronounce the same way. So that phonetic aspect is covered right into the letter itself, which is not the case in other languages which are otherwise could be phonetic. And for example, I gave an example earlier in Portuguese, which is considered a fairly phonetic language, not quite. The word poco, they call it P-O-C-O. So the individual letters are not, so here if you just pronounce the individual letters, you will be able to pronounce the word in Sanskrit, which is not the case in other places. Because of this phonetic aspect, any script can be used as long as you can figure out that this syllable, this particular shape represents this letter. You can use any script for representing Sanskrit. And there have been many scripts of Sanskrit. Currently Devanagari. So Devanagari is the script. This is Devanagari. This is currently the default script for Sanskrit. Most of the Sanskrit texts you will find in this script. And there is a Roman equivalent of Sanskrit script which has been there and that is called IAST or transliteration, International Alphabet for Sanskrit Transliteration. And as you can see, there have some diacritical marks have been invented to represent the sounds. But once that script has one-to-one matching to the different sounds, you can use that script to write Sanskrit also. So in this course, I'll be using the transliteration because not everybody is familiar with Devanagari. Along with Devanagari, I'll use some Devanagari, but also transliteration. So you don't have to know Devanagari. This script is called Devanagari to understand these classes. Sanskrit has a perfect etymology. That means any word can be traced down to its root word. There are about 2000 root words in Sanskrit, out of which about 500 or so, they are the most commonly used. Like 95+% of the Sanskrit words, or even greater, like 99%, would have only those 500 roots. And you can take any word, however long, however complex it may be, and you can drill down to which root it has come from. And with a very well-defined set of rules, that how a root can give rise to a particular word. These rules I was talking about, they are encoded in a grammatical system called Panini Ashtadhyayi. It's a very small book. There are only 4,000 rules, written very short. So even though it may seem like the number of rules are so many, yet if you put them in paper, just side by side, those 4,000 rules, they will fit in about 20 pages or so. That's all. But those rules are require a very, very systematic study, and it can take years to master those rules. In fact, in India, in Sanskrit, grammarian is considered a career. So there are people who are just a specialist in Sanskrit grammar, and they are called grammarians, Vyakarana. Very old tradition. This Panini, we don't have any date when he happened, when he was. The only thing is known that he was at least 2,500 years ago. And any time between 2,500 and 5,000 years. That's all we know. So there is no certainty regarding his date, except we know the lower bound and upper bounds. The way he has written his grammar, that's like a computer program. So Panini, by many people, is considered the father of computer science, because if you study this grammar, you will see that he has defined the variables, array variables, if then else conditions, loops, go to statements, and many other ways that how to make the whole thing right in a very precise and concise manner. The brevity, the short, how short can you write, that was considered an extremely important part at that time, because paper wasn't available easy. You had to write, writing was not so easy, and people had to memorize most of the things. So people were writing primarily either in the poem, which could be memorized, or in the sutra, they are called formula or sutra, very short and very precise and very concise. So this, to attain that thing, he has made it such a beautiful thing. It is considered by many people as the finest work a human brain has ever produced. And there have been hundreds of PhDs on just this simple book I told you, which can fit in 20 pages. Hundreds of PhDs have taken place on this book, and is still going on. So any of you who are interested, I would definitely recommend that. First, of course, it's not an easy task. It requires a very sincere and serious study, but it is quite rewarding in a way. Sanskrit is most rule-based yet most flexible. These two things seem like as if they are not compatible. If something you make a lot of rules, the flexibility is reduced. And if it is too flexible, you can define very lot of rules in which the language operates. Somehow Sanskrit has attained both of them quite marvelously. So rule-based, I told you, there is Panini grammar, there is only 2,000 root words, and Out of that, just 500 are very common. And these 4,000 rules, every single word in Sanskrit, millions of them, they are derived by the operation of these 4,000 rules on these 500 root words. That's all. So if somebody understands these rules and these 500 root words, they really don't even need dictionary. They can understand millions of the words because I told you it's a perfect etymology. So if you will become like having a dictionary in your brain. And yet it is most flexible. And I'll just show you an example of how flexible Sanskrit could be, which no language can match. So look at the kind of constructions which are possible in Sanskrit. And all these constructions are following all the rules which are there in place. And there literally are lot of rules. So I'll just increase the size so that you can see a little bit clearly. These are all written in the poem, and there are rules for the poem also. So here a person has taken, this is from a great poet called Magha. He has written a work. These samples are from that. So look at how he has taken just one consonant in one row, and then another consonant in another row, third one, third row, fourth one, fourth row. That's all. And it is not only following all the rules, it is actually making a sense. It's not like a senseless statement. And it's also a part of the great poem which he has written. So it has to go into the flow of that poem also. And then he has reduced to just two consonants in another verse. So Bha and Ra. And he has created the whole verse just with that. Then even further, he has taken just one consonant, Da, and created the whole verse from that consonant. This kind of flexibility is not available in any language. And this is not my opinion. This is the observation of many great linguists, that no ancient or modern language has this kind of flexibility that you can take one consonant and create a whole verse just using one consonant, and has that verse following all the rules of the grammar, all the rules of the meter, and having a sense and meaning which is fit into the overall poem. So it seems, so these are the amazing part of Sanskrit, that it is very rule based and yet it's quite flexible. And given all the possibilities of millions of words in Sanskrit, literally there are only three types of words which are possible, which are in Sanskrit, which are possible in Sanskrit. Just three categories of words. And I'll show you that the three types of words are nominals, they are declined. The nouns, pronouns, and adjectives, these are called nominals. Verbs, they are conjugated. And indeclinables, they do not undergo any change of the form in conjugation or declension. Just three types of words are there. And the way they are and some people categorize them even further down to two, considering that indeclinables are a subset of nominals. The difference between these is this. So nominals is something like Rama. So Ramaha, Ramau, Ramaha. So these are called the declension tables, and the words which follow these declension tables, they are all nominals. And they are very similar declension tables for all the nominal words. And a sentence will consist of a word from one of these tables. Similarly, for the verb, there is a different set of table. This is 3 by 3. like gum, to go, this is a verb, and this is the kind of table. So a word will come. So whether a word is following the previous table or this table or no table at all, this is primarily the reason, the three categories of the words. The number of manuscripts in Sanskrit. You will be amazed that Sanskrit not only is the number one language in the whole world in the terms of number of manuscripts, also, just as a comparison, if you think of Latin and Greek, they are the two major ancient languages in the Western world. The number of manuscripts in Sanskrit are more than 100 times than Latin and Greek manuscripts put together. And that shows a tradition which is not on very, very ancient, a tradition which is still continuous, and a tradition where learning was given an utmost importance. And these manuscripts have survived despite the onslaught of many foreign invaders who purposely went about destroying a lot of universities, schools, and libraries. Sanskrit, people ask whether it's a living language. Normally, it's considered a frozen living language because Panini grammar set the rules and Sanskrit became sort of frozen in time. But it's a living language that people still can speak, and there are thousands and thousands of people in India who are very fluent in Sanskrit, and they have as much command over Sanskrit as generally one would have a command over a mother tongue. So just to give you a glimpse of what sense, because we would be using Sanskrit grammatical analysis, I just wanted to give you a glimpse of what Sanskrit looks like. And as I showed you earlier, that if you are interested, we have the resources. You could go to those resources and learn some Sanskrit for yourself. So here is the course, which has all the videos, class notes, exercises, and other study materials. It is available on the same link. So in this class, when we do our verses, I want to show you how will we do the verses. So there is a sample here of Gita, verse number, first verse, first chapter. We will be doing the second, but because I did it once, I just wanted to show you. So the verse will be written, then in the transliteration, we will go for each and every word. We will see what type of the word it is. If it's a nominal, I showed you that table. In the table, where does it fit? Like which case and which number, which gender, what is the base, what is the meaning? And then for a verb kind of word, what is the tense, what is the person, what is the number, what is the root, what is the meaning? And then finally, with all this, we will arrive at the English translation. So this is what our approach would be. The classes will typically be for 45 minutes to 50 minutes, and then last 10 to 15 minutes I'll keep for question and answer. So it will be interactive. You can keep sending your questions and I'll answer them towards the end of the class using the chat window. So that will be our modus operandi. So today's session was more of an introduction, and from tomorrow we will be going to the actual example. So if you have any questions, you can ask. So question is, from tomorrow we will start with the verses. Yes, from tomorrow we'll start with the second chapter. Not tomorrow, next Saturday. So every Saturday we'll have the class 11 to 12 Eastern time. That is Miami time, and we will start with the first verse of the second chapter. There is a question on what is our homework. So homework, I will recommend everybody, particularly to those students who are enrolled in the Sanskrit class, that try to do 3 verses beforehand yourself and see if how much can you go far, how far can you arrive in your own analysis. And if you have any questions, feel free to send those questions at the email. That way I'll have the questions and I can address those questions in the when I cover the actual verses in the class. Can more people join the class? Yes, more people can join the class. The reason we wanted people to have registration, one of the reason is that if there is any notification to be sent out, they will be included automatically. There is a question, would we see the metaphorical interpretation for every verse? So my focus will not be metaphorical interpretation, but we will see some philosophical aspect which is simply flowing from the verse. So it will not be just a translation, it will be some discussion of the verse itself, yet it will not be going deeper into metaphorical. If you want to understand more deep into metaphorical aspects, as I said, Guruji's videos will be coming shortly, and he has discussed and described every verse in a great detail, that how is it metaphorical as well as how is it important from a seeker's perspective. So for that I will recommend you to go to those videos, and it will help you if you attend this class, because you can then understand the metaphorical meaning even better. There is a question, can we access the recordings of these classes to share with the others? Yes, you can. We will be posting the recordings. There is a question, I am new to access this material, do I need to create account? I don't think you need to create an account. If at all, you might need a simple Google account because it's on G Drive. But from our perspective, you don't need to create an account. There is a question, do we have the document you showed us in the repository as an example? Yes, it's available. There is a question, besides Guruji's, do you recommend any other interpretation of Gita? As I said, there are thousands of commentaries. It's really difficult to have one recommendation. So I do not know, and then from which aspects, like some commentators have highlighted certain aspects, some others different aspects. So it's a little bit difficult thing. So one person is writing comment, the introduction to Bhagavad-Gita and Sanskrit was very useful. Thank you for attending this. But the question is, but we will derive the English translation of each verse studied, right? Yes, of course. We will be studying the every word, its translation, as well as a little bit of a philosophical implications of that verse. So it is study of Gita. It's not so much study of Sanskrit, but Sanskrit is the language in which Gita is written. That's why we will study to understand really what it means. We study through Sanskrit grammar Gita. That's the purpose. Okay, so with this, I'll conclude this class. We'll pray. And I will recommend you that please attend all the classes because they will be building on each other. So it will help if you are continuously present. If in case you miss, as I said, videos would be available and you can access those videos later on to keep in sync with the class. Okay, with this, we do the prayers. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्. ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते, पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you everyone.